Well, Professor, today I'd rather talk about Japan's role in the future in the world, because we have now some difficult moments with neighbors, Chinese and Koreans. But as historian Toynbee, Arnold Toynbee, he predicted that the center of gravity of the world could be shifting from the west to east, or from the Atlantic to the Pacific. If he's correct, could be it's happening now.
Well, I think that's already been proven to be true with the European situation over the last several years, the EU sort of falling apart. Yes, the question is that what kind of a structure that will emerge, regional structure will emerge from the rise of China, the recovery of the Japanese economy, and certainly the vitality of Southeast Asia that's coming up very strong.
By the way, when you talk about the structure, that's an important point, because to me it looks like there were three global orders which were established after the war about peace and prosperity. First one, it was United Nations to prohibit the use of force, and for that purpose United Nations was established. Exception was when you use force for defense, and the United Nations Charter created a new type of defense, collective self-defense. Which means it was created by the United Nations Charter. And, well, the Japanese government has decided to change an interpretation a little bit. But to me, it looks like, well, I mean, we have it. It used to be, we couldn't use it. But it was rather not natural to me.
There are a lot of aspects of Japan's Asia diplomacy, Japan's Asia presence, as well as its global presence, that were limited by self-imposed restrictions.
Right, self-imposed one.
Right. These are, as you pointed out, it was not the United Nations that told Japan what to do, it was Japan itself.
Exactly.
And to me, Article 9 hasn't changed. It's basically sacred in terms of the first clause particularly. But Japan many times has reinterpreted it. This is not the latest reinterpretation is not the first, and it probably won't be the last. And I think that's understandable since the world situation has changed. And as I pointed out, Asia has no order. It's basically every country for itself.
And what I was trying to say was this United Nations system, it's now rather shaky. Because the original purpose was to prohibit the use of force for the sake of creating or making peace. But it has not been 100% successful. The second order was a free trade system, because there was a protectionism before the war, and there was a war. So prevent the war, free trade system was the second order. So the people created a GATT system, General Agreement, Trade and Tariffs, and WTO, World Trade Organization. But the problem was now there are more than 190 countries, so make a decision unanimously has become rather difficult. So this system now is, to me, shifting to FTAs or TPP. But this is the second best choice. But which means this second free trade system has not been 100% complete yet.
Right, there are many gaps in the rules, and what's overlooked in the current TPP negotiations is that it's not just trade in goods. There's a whole area, over 20 areas of services and other new systems. So what the WTO Doha round could not accomplish can be accomplished, I think, by the WTO. And that's not the end. After that, there should be the Asia-Pacific FTA. And eventually, countries that did not want to come in or couldn't come in. I don't think China is qualified to come into the TPP. But maybe in 10 years, they don't want to be isolated from that system. They'll come in and we'll have a basically global system that will grow. But without Japan's membership in TPP, it's meaningless. With Japan's 40% of the world GDP.
So that was the second order.
Yes.
And the third one was currency.
Yes.
Keynes from Great Britain, he talked about world currency. But United States was rather advocating using dollar as a key currency. And it has been adopted. But now dollar key currency system, according to some people, it has not been functioning well. So we have to do something about it. So these orders, three orders, United Nations system, free trade system, or dollar key currency system, all are undergoing challenges now. Something has to be done. That's what we talk about. Structural change is necessary.
There are, as you know, in Asia, there are no regional mechanisms set up for security. There are certain systems that are sort of informal for currency problems, swap arrangements, etc. And Japan has sort of taken the lead on that. And on other aspects, trade, there are lots of FTAs and EPAs, but it's been called a noodle bowl, a bowl of noodles, because they don't all fit together.
Yes, that's where Japan's role in the future comes into the picture, because there is a TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership, and there is a Japan, China, Korea tripartite free trade agreement negotiation, which I initiated.
Oh, excellent.
And another one which I initiated was bordering countries of Sea of Japan.
Oh, yes.
Japan, Russia, Korea, China, and I included Mongolia. And as a rather honorary member of the United States too, I invited scholars from these 6 nations. And we talked about energy cooperation. We talked about establishing a bank to cover these areas, Northeast Asia.
That is absolutely critical.
Yeah, because Russia is not a member of the ADB, Asia Development Bank. They cannot get finance from this ADB. So if we establish a bank to cover this Northeast Asia, then it will be a good news for Russians. So, which means TPP or Japan, China, Korea, tripartite FTA, or this Northeast Asia economic cooperation, these things need to be integrated in the future, and Japan could play an important role there. And if we can integrate this with RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, with over Southeast Asia included, so then we can have an image of Asia Pacific sort of community, even though it may not be like European Union, but something like a community among the Asia Pacific countries.
Actually, I think there's a synergy there, because APEC has the potential to be a coordinating mechanism for a lot of them. And right now it's kind of a voluntary thing with goals that are not necessarily shared by all. But if you indeed put in your formula, it probably would further unify APEC. Everybody would have common goals.
There is an agreement which is FTA-AP, FTAP we call it, FTA Asia Pacific. So in 10 years or some years, we have an agreement that FTAP is our shared goal. So it's an amalgamation of TPP, FTAs, or Northeast Asia Cooperation, or RCEP things.
I think to get there, though, there are hurdles that are not economic.
Of course.
And the U.S. is very concerned about, you mentioned one, freedom of navigation, freedom of commercial navigation. If China indeed sets up access denial system that prevents that freedom, the U.S. is very much concerned, as of course is
Japan. To me, if we look back about 10 years, a little more than that, there was an Afghan war, there was a war in Iraq. I was rather worried about the negative possibility when the United States was beginning a war in Afghanistan and Iraq, because there is a historic example of the Soviet Union. Soviet Union collapsed because they invaded Afghanistan. Well, there is some mysterious vulnerabilities.
You know that the repercussions of those two wars have hit American economy, has hit the American spirit. People are weary of war. That's why we are not interventionists. And most important, we've got to build up our domestic economy first before we can have a strong external relationship with the rest of the world. I think that's where Obama has been focusing.
I know there was a reason why the United States went there, but still I was worried. I mean, it has to be a cautious strategy. And probably it was not 100%, I mean, strategically it was not 100%.
We were swept up by the post 9/11 syndrome, and I think that's now dissipated. Instead of attacking the enemy, which was the Al-Qaeda, we attacked another country, thinking that that would solve the problem, and it did not.
Exactly.
So
now what's happening is rebalancing, coming to the Asia Pacific.
You know, I have a point about that. We are actually not rebalancing. We are, we are here. We've always been here. I think it's more of a kind of, well, you could say rebalancing, but rebalancing within the area. You know, we put some Marines in Australia. We're beefing up relations with the Philippines. But we've always been here. Our presence has never been a question. It's a question of fine-tuning rather than a complete shift. That being said, the rest of the world isn't going to leave us alone. Mr. Kerry was in Shanghai, in China, Beijing, just finished yesterday. But he's been everywhere. So actually focusing on Asia is a major problem for U.S. diplomacy because of the incredible distractions of problems all over the world.
But, I mean, if we look at it a little differently, there is a manifest destiny in United States history going toward west, 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 west.
Most of our trade is here.
Pacific. And what I mean by rebalancing is may not be the same as the United States government is using, but shifting anyway, way more toward Asia Pacific to stimulate trade there in the Asia Pacific region and increasing employment within the United States, and then re-establishing the economy. But the problem for the United States, well, probably to us too, is Japan, China, Korea are now having difficult times. All the territories on rocks. So we have to do something about it. I think we can, I mean, something can be done, but still,
you're right.
Mr. Abe seems to be having a difficult time.
Let's put it this way. The U.S. wants to have triangular relations, Japan, China, and the U.S. Japan, ROK, the U.S. That's part of our rebalancing diplomacy, to have cooperation within the region among those powers, and cooperation on global issues like climate change, or even the TPP by all of these. But now, of course, that can't happen. So actually, there is a gap growing between Japan and the United States, as you saw by Secretary Kerry's speeches and dialogue in strategic dialogue in Beijing. We are pursuing a frank and very sometimes strong discussion, laying out the problems as well as laying out the commonality of issues. But Japan has no dialogue. So that gap is growing. Instead, Japan is focusing only on the maritime issue. Of course, we are too, but we are not preparing for war. We are preparing for some kind of a code of conduct or rules that can be set with China. in the region so that disputes, not necessarily territorial.
I agree. Probably the dialogue between the United States and Japan could be a little different from dialogue between the United States and China. Chinese like it because they call it G2.
We don't like it.
And the point is, well, I mean, for the peace and prosperity, for example, in the Asia-Pacific region, I always think about our relations across the Pacific, United States and Japan. Well, 70 years ago, there was a war across the Pacific, and even 2 atomic bombs on Japan. But now, nobody talks about a war between the two countries. Nobody ever imagines a war between the two countries. Because our society, politics, economy, culture, all intertwined. And we like movies in Hollywood too. Same thing could happen in our relations with other countries.
Of course.
Society, economy, culture, politics.
If I may give an anecdote, among my students at SAIS, at Johns Hopkins, there are many Chinese students from the mainland. They are majoring in Japan studies. They like Japan. Young people, and I asked them, don't you get education, Hannichi, anti-Japan education? And we get patriotic education, but we're not particularly anti-Japan. So I think at the grassroots level, not at the political level, there's
I sense possibility, great possibility.
Great possibility of having multi-layered dialogues from the grassroots up. Which would build good cultural, educational, and because many Chinese coming here as tourists and students already. So it's just a matter of the political dimensions. There are 3 structural issues that Japan faces with China. One is obviously territorial. The second is history. And the third is nationalism. Right at this moment, all 3 are intertwined. You've got to extract them. Deng Xiaoping was able to table the territorial issue. Xi Jinping is a collective leader. He doesn't have the power of a Deng Xiaoping, so it has to be slowly ratcheted back. But if the rest of the relationship is good, then ultimately the territorial issue will quiet down.
I think there is a desire on both sides, the Japanese side, the Chinese side, to do something with these rocks. We cannot fight a war over the rocks. We shouldn't, and nobody wants it.
And in fact, if you go back to 2008, things were pretty good for a while. There was a joint development agreement for gas in the East China Sea, so it looked like things were going along okay.
Today I would not rather delve into the specifics of this, how we can solve it, because there is some major things involved. But I feel we can solve it.
Yes, and I'm sure that if you focus on the healthy parts of the relationship, the economy, the cultural, the educational, the global commonality, North Korea issue, then you can find a lot of things to talk about that'll make the rest of the relationship better.
So, global terms, post-war global systems, United Nations, free trade system, dollar key currency system, all initiated by, through the United States leadership. That was fine, but it's now undergoing some challenges, so we have to do something about it. And Japan, I'm sure, has some potential to do great at all.
And Japan is actually becoming a little more active internationally. Diplomacy is getting more proactive. A lot of that started with the DPJ, but it's continuing. My thesis is that many of the policies of the Abe administration grew out of the policies of the DPJ. I wrote a paper on U.S.-Japan relations under the DPJ and gave a plus. I thought everything, except for the base issue, which is always a problem, the rest of the relationship was quite good.
Exactly. I remember there were mainly 4 areas to be taken care of. One was base issues, another was TPP, and third one was beef, and fourth one was the treaty about I forgot the name of it. It was the Hague Treaty.
Yes, that's been solved.
Yes. So these things were all not solved. I mean, beef and the Hague Treaty especially.
And TPP is only like 2 issues left.
Yes,
so
exactly. It's a pity that we couldn't make a decision much earlier, and we could have done it.
Well, I think there's a good reason, the earthquake. If you take a look at the policy process, it was going along, and then the earthquake came, and then it got completely sidetracked. So you had about a year and a half gap. I think
it's a rather favorable way of looking at it.
It's true. It's true. Everybody focused here and in the rest of the world on a crisis, a major crisis, a national crisis, and overcoming that national crisis was the top priority. You couldn't expect, farmers to be very flexible on TPP when they were afraid that Japan's crops were being imposed.
Well, Professor Brooks, thank you very much. I mean, we covered many things today, and I always enjoy discussing things with you when I visit in Washington.
I'll be back in Washington in September, so if you are in Washington, please.
Thank you. You are now with the university?
I'm at Waseda as a visiting scholar. I was teaching some lectures, including Nakabayashi Sensei's course, and now I'm doing full-time research to finish my book, which will compare the policy process of the DPJ administrations to the policy processes of the LDP, particularly under Abe. And my conclusions are that, indeed, the DPJ moved gradually and strongly towards a very effective process by the time the Noda administration was in power. And if you look at the LDP, it's not that much different. So effectiveness was, I think, trial and error at first with the Hapiyama administration. But by the time Noda administration was in, it was pretty smooth going. And TPP was just timing. It just ran out of time. And they still haven't. They still haven't made the final decisions. Consensus building in a democracy takes time. American problem is the word consensus for the U.S. Congress has become a dirty word. So here it's a goal. There it's become something to be avoided.
Well, good luck on your book.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.